Hello. So it was noisy in my room and it messed up the sound of everything because my microphone makes noise suppression sound absolutely balls. I would be on that better microphone wave, but I have to pay taxes, so that's not happening anytime soon. So enjoy the absolutely awful audio for the first half, then it fixes itself. But I don't have time to do this again, so I apologize in advance. Bye. Hi everyone, it's me again, and Squish Gang is present. And today we're going to be doing an update on the Colleen Ballinger situation. And this video will be updating you on two kind of main factors: Papa Gut's live stream and its highlights of his deep dive, as well as the various articles that have come out regarding the Colleen Ballinger situation and kind of Adam McIntyre and all his thoughts and that kind of stuff. A little bit lighter hearted than the last video, but first, links, socials, Amazon, Patreon, YouTube memberships, all the ways to support the channel, including affiliate links to What's on My Face, Gerard Cosmetics, and Every Jewels, and a bunch of other fun stuff like sources and things. I already said sources, but you know, or no, I didn't. I don't know, whatever. All down below. And I would like to take this time to thank my YouTube members and patrons with their names on screen. So, that's all said and done. My last Colleen Ballinger video got demonetized and then human reviewed and demonetized again for being too controversial. So, YouTube doesn't care that Colleen gets to run around and do all of these things, but then us talking about it is bad. So pray for the monetization lord that this one stays up. Who knows what's gonna happen. Two parts of the video today. We're gonna have Papa Gut's live stream and the 35-minute follow-up video that he did, as well as the articles that have come out. So let's get right into it. I don't have a lot of time to film today, so we're going very fast. Part 1, Papa Gut's live stream and video. So Papa Gut's, about 2 weeks ago from today being June 27th, hopefully this is out June 28th, has put out a comprehensive deep dive live stream about the entire Adam McIntyre and Colleen Ballinger situation. It was literally 5 hours and 43 minutes long, along with a 30-minute follow-up video and a response to Ryan Beard's critique on Papa Gut's perceptions of this whole situation. I'm not going to talk about the Ryan Beard response because it was just Papa Gut coping and seething by the end, if you wanted to know. There's funny tweets about it. So all this fun stuff together total to about 7.5 hours of fun educational Papa Gut content on this whole thing. So, you know, the opportunist, exploitative people that are defending Adam are no match for the somehow non-opportunist people who are defending someone who asked minors for pics of their butts. But, no pun intended, I suppose, we are here. Yep. So, before I get into this, like, deeper, I'm aware that I'm going to be hyper-criticized, not only by Papa Gut's fan base, potentially, but also by Papa Gut himself, probably on some sort of rage-induced live stream. I don't really function like these edgy, logical debate bro types on the internet. I don't strive for this supposed dedication to logic by forming a contrarian opinion and insisting that what is deemed to be logical is the most devoid of emotion and human decency, because I actually studied philosophy, and I actually studied formal logic, and I actually studied argumentation, and nowhere does it say that people's emotions are not to be taken into account at all. That's literally what pathos is, one of the 3 components of argumentation in the most basic form. And before the debate lords come back again and go, well, that's like a really basic thing, I'm just saying the most basic thing, so I don't have to spend 3 hours prepping myself by telling you all of the compounding logic that comes from, you know, Stoicism and Cicero and all these foundational aspects, then to move into utilitarianism and those more common and more recent schools of thought to then move into feminist philosophy. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to do that. So what I'm saying is, you've missed even the basics with that line. Now, let's go. Next thing. So, if we get into the actual stream type deal, This supposed deep dive was a research stream, like what I do when I title them research streams. If a deep dive, you're supposed to know what you're doing usually before you go into it. At least know like who you're going to be talking about, such as knowing that it's Adam McIntyre, not Adam McIntyre. But alas, it is what it is. So Papa begins with looking at the video that Adam McIntyre put out in 2020 called Colleen Ballinger Stop Lying, in which Adam discusses his relationship with Colleen. Throughout the discussion, Papa Gut denounces, not necessarily denounces, but dilutes the conversations that Adam describes having with Colleen at most being inappropriate, and Colleen Ballinger being a dumbass.
The bigger question I have is because, like, yeah, you should have known from the start it was inappropriate to be that close with somebody that was that young. So really my question is like, did you realize that it was wrong, or you just like, what made you realize you were wrong, right? Like, why did it take the mother yelling at you to realize that? You know what I mean? You fucking idiot. But okay, let's see the part where she's trying to like deplatform.
Now, I want you to think for a second. Think about what we've heard about Colleen Ballinger. For back to my last video for a comprehensive timeline, if you have no idea what I'm talking about. But think about if you had a teacher who had a group chat with a bunch of minors and discussed personal life, their divorce, made jokes about periods, asked for pics of the butts, asked a bunch of sexual questions. Now, that gives you the ick, right? And I feel like there are more similarities to this situation than you think. And before, again, I feel like you've probably just paused. If you are watching this, unpause now, because we've got reasoning for this one. 3 reasons I've drawn this comparison, okay? 1, I am 6 months out from a master's degree in secondary school education in the province of Quebec, and just in Canada in general, with a teacher certification to boot. So, I know the legality personally. I don't have conversations with my wife regarding the legality. I studied the legality. And I know about that specifically, especially when it comes to conduct with minors. 2, a student-teacher interaction presents a strong disproportional power dynamic between a young person and someone that they potentially look up to, similarly to that of Colleen Ballinger and Adam McIntyre at the time. 3, I want to give you something that's clear and tangible to kind of form that internalized reaction that I'm feeling when I am going into these things, to kind of give you a window into what my perceptions are and the strength of this forceful conversation that I will be putting forward. Because again, emotionalist arguments are not logical arguments. I don't understand who decided that. I think that's a modern school of thought, typically, which has been kind of drawn from actually like super classical philosophy, like Aristotle saying that women were men with birth defects who were essentially the emotional representation and downfalls of the beings that which produced them, that being the fathers. But I think, whatever 400 something, whatever BCE is a little bit out of date for proposing these arguments, especially because if we put in this clip from Papa Gut's reaction to Mr. Beard, maybe the women aren't the ones that are emotional in the first place.
Comments. Oh, every time I have a take about Nick Merckx, oh, I fucking agree with Nick Merckx. Oh, I'm gonna fucking, like, you're a little baby. You're a dumb little baby. And then somehow people take them as just as credible as like a fucking 30-something-year-old person that's constantly trying to have the right conversation. Why? Fuck you. You're wrong. It's not grooming. To all the people that are saying it, I'm sorry. I know that you're offended, but it's just a fact of the matter of the situation. That's what it is, and own it. Like, you can't even own your own take in your own video. It's a 20-minute video, and the backlash has already caused you to shift towards what they're saying. And then you're going to downplay.
If you're wondering why I have this frustration, it's because later we'll discuss how essentially Papa Gut says that all of us who are talking positively about Adam McIntyre are discussing opportunists who are drama channels who, like, make videos every time Trisha Paytas farts. And most of the drama sphere are either gay men or women, or kind of NB types, but just typically not cishet men. So this denouncing of the entire section of the internet stems from deeper arguments. I think what Papa Gut does is he touches on a bunch of things really lightly and presents it as this like emotionalist means logical idea, and then carries that forward, as opposed to actually diving into where these perceptions are coming from in the first place, which is one of the most fundamental components of criticism, and in-depth, purposeful, and accurate criticism. So some may say, very likely Papa Gut will, that this is a hyperbolic comparison at best, the teacher to student to Colleen Ballinger, Adam McIntyre comparison I just made. But I feel like many people underestimate the power that influencers have in the kind of modern day. And I don't care what people are going to say, well, Colleen Ballinger was a YouTuber in 2010, She was talking to Adam McIntyre up until 2020. The modern influencer comparison, the conversations with their fans, all of that kind of stuff had been exposed for years by then. The initial James Charles scandal had already happened. There were other, I think Call Me Carson had already happened. Unless that was 2021, I might get my timelines wrong. But regardless, there were a lot of like exposed YouTubers for having conversations with minors and those types of things by this point. Not only do influencers have money and notoriety, YouTube creates a strong parasocial bond that creates a rabid fan base that can thus be weaponized. That is often comprised of kids who are idolizing someone. And in the case of Colleen Ballinger, someone who was hiring their fans, something that also Papa Gut said was totally fine, which I have a huge issue with. And 3, I love...
Well, yeah, it makes sense to hire fans because they're passionate about your stuff. And like, you're best off hiring people who really enjoy your stuff when doing stuff for you. Absolutely makes sense. Sure.
Supporting their dreams and passions in any way.
I will not hire people who are my fans, or if there are people who know me that want to work for me, let's say in the regards to like a commission, let's say for my avatar that's like, you know, right there or whatever, that's different in the sense of it's a one-off interaction and I pay them. I'm not kind of developing these long-term relationships and then being like, please work for me for free type deal. Colleen is then bringing forth not only influence, high socioeconomic status, but also potentially a gateway to their dream jobs. And if Colleen tosses them to the side and is like, I don't want to use you, could also potentially stop people who could be really positive from the platform from moving forward. And just in general kind of brings forth this ideology that you're not worth much if you're just there for Twitter, despite the fact that these kids having ideas of social media demographics, what kind of statistics there are, the parameters in which people reach out to the content, and what is trending is actually very impressive, especially for people as young as Adam was, for example, when he was doing the posts. And again, the prevalence with Colleen is also that she admits to hiring fans and vets them, which essentially presents it as an unpaid training, which is like, you know, dissolves professionalism, but also is like illegal in a lot of places. Like, if I'm pretty sure if you're not doing an internship, like through university, like teaching internships, stagiaires for medicine, stuff like that, then you cannot have unpaid training. Papa Gut, throughout this whole conversation, talking about Colleen, talking about Cody, talking about Adam, seems to fixate on this concept of sensitivity that edgy people tend to conflate as a lack of intelligence. Again, high emotional drive does not necessarily mean that they are not intellectual, and does not necessarily mean that the argument they're putting forward is invalid if they are not stable in presenting it. And aside, but it feels a little bit dystopian to me to be picking apart the concept of if a child is being groomed or not by an influencer over like some sort of like Diablo type, World of Warcraft type beat kind of gameplay. It's like, girl, holy moly. The live stream essentially was Papa Gut granting Colleen Ballinger grace while adding, I don't like Colleen in all of the time in order to kind of pull a red blanket out to a bull, if that makes sense, to kind of be like, well, I'm not biased because I don't like Colleen. Stop, you can't say I'm biased. I said I didn't like Colleen. Boop. Boop, boop. Which is in order to sway criticism, I suppose. For people like Papa Gut, who are these like debate lord internet types. When I'm saying debate lord types, I'm talking like Papa Gut, Destiny, the commentary bros, like these very like, every time there's some sort of disagreement between two people, it's like, debate me. It's like, No. I'm not going to go onto your platform with your fan base and be having to deal with everything under your terms, where you're going to actually propose or approach this in an emotionally charged way with the idea to humiliate me for personal reasons while disguising it as a structured argument. Again, these people put being biased or not biased as the precipice of their argument and the main point that they're discussing, despite the fact that all arguments ever done ever present some sort of bias in them, because the bias is also present in the position in which they're coming for. If you want to disagree with me, I beg you to read one.
Why a lot of people hate her so much, but we're gonna take a deep breath. We're gonna try to be unbiased. She might have actually thought okay, the mother said don't talk about this particular topic. Ballsy move, showing the screenshot of what was said on the screen and not really reacting to it or responding to it particularly well.
That's the other thing. I feel like every time that I'm here, especially when we're talking about these types of people, I'm like, girl, I beg for you to read a book. I beg you to be literate. That's all I could really ask for, is read a book. You know? And it's they'll put being biased or trying to not be biased ahead of being decent as a human being, even when approaching sensitive subject arguments. I think I'm gonna have to call this one Papa Gut's rhetoric about something, because I realize how much I'm throwing in here, because a lot of this wasn't even in my notes. Oop! Well, it is what it is. Regardless, it's more of the same. Research streams are not really here to pick apart the gaps in his reasoning, despite the fact that he presented it as a deep dive when it's clearly a I'm finding this out for the first time stream. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be mean about the next one, the video. That's about 35 minutes long, because that one Adam McIntyre also reacted to in a stream. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But this one is worse. The next video Papa Gut made was called The Colleen Ballinger Situation Has Gotten Out of Hand, which opens up with Papa Gut saying that he just posted his extremely comprehensive deep dive on Adam McIntyre, immediately mispronouncing the name of the main person in this whole story.
So it's been 3 days since I posted my very comprehensive breakdown on this Adam McIntyre and Colleen Ballinger situation.
While people can go, well, Mika, I feel like him saying the name wrong wouldn't denounce the whole argument. I'm just giggling and kikiing about the irony of being I'm the only one who did this right, and I'm the only one who's comprehensive, and you can't even get their name right. Especially when no one else is getting it wrong. That's the other thing. It's not if you watched a bunch of videos, it was all of us were saying Adam McIntyre, and in reality it was Adam McIntyre. It's nobody's been getting it wrong. So it just means you didn't watch anything else. Papa Gut, so now I'm reading my notes more because my head's empty and I don't have much time left to record. Papa Gut says the trauma is from the backlash of Colleen Ballinger's fans, stating, and I quote, Papa Gut is saying that the trauma that Adam dealt with was not from actually the interaction with Colleen Ballinger, but rather the backlash from Colleen's fans. But the thing is, Adam's backlash was pretty minute compared to the backlash that he would face with coming out with a video. And Adam stated that he felt a sort of trauma while recording the video. In 2020, I mean. So that argument, again, doesn't have anything to stand on. Who's surprised? But Papa Gut says the following, and I quote, and I wrote it down. I listened to it 3 times to make sure I got every word. The same people who are now very much in defense of Adam and apologizing to him are the same ones who had bullied and harassed him and broke him down mentally on behalf of Colleen, I guess, despite the fact that I imagine she never told you guys to do this.
Absolutely honest with you is because if there is a trauma there, it's not necessarily because of Colleen, but really the backlash and the outfall, or you know what I'm saying. The fallout is the word I was looking for. Anyway, for the past 3 years, to my understanding, the same people who are now very much in defense of Adam and apologizing to him are the same ones that have bullied and harassed him and broken him down mentally on behalf of Colleen, I guess, despite the fact that I imagine she never told you guys to do this. I think it's Colleen's privilege that after they had their falling out, she got to disconnect from this situation and no longer was a part of her, at least.
Well, this is despite, if you were looking at this comprehensive stream, the voice notes that have come out where Colleen said that she was trying to figure out things on Adam, trying to see if people could defend her on behalf of her kind of loyalty to them against Adam, the presentation of the screenshots that Cody brought, that the Weenies brought, that Adam himself has brought out, you know, but no, we're all just reactionary opportunists. I would like that quoted Papa Gut for the Rolling Stone article. Please call Rolling Stone a bunch of opportunists that never cared about Adam McIntyre in the first place because they're just a bunch of drama channels that make videos every time Trisha Paytas farts. Yeah. Anywho, doozles. Papa Gut calls the beauty community opportunistic for talking about this, whilst reducing the situation to Adam being dramatic and everyone else being opportunistic on behalf of his wife's education on social work and the comprehensive mental health conversations he has with his wife. Not his education, not his knowledge, and he just says, I do research. I've done where? Citation needed, girl. Because, like before, you know, again, Papa, if you just paused, Mika, where are your citations? Usually in the description, I have literally APA citations of the books that I'm referencing. In the case of this one, because I've talked kind of just briefly about different philosophers and stuff, I'll just pop in. If you look Papa Gut or whoever's reacting to this, or if anybody, or whoever you're watching, whoever's watching, there's a playlist down below, or not playlist, a Amazon wish list, because I'm not affiliate, so I can't just put like buying lists up of, it's called Rhetoric readings. Those are all the books that I've already read on argumentation and philosophy and how to position arguments and stuff like that, along with a 4-year honors degree from the University of Waterloo in English literature and rhetoric with a minor in philosophy. So that's my citation for my education, the books that I've read and the research that I've done. Please provide some. And I'm not talking about the videos you watched. I'm talking about the research you've done allegedly on grooming, on mental health, on how you want to position like an argument. Because if we're talking about my knowledge on things like interaction with kids and stuff, that's almost completing a master's degree from a top university in the country. I'm just not as willing to say where it is because I don't want people to call the school that I go to. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'll tell you when I graduate. Give me till December, okay?
Well, that's not the type of grooming it is. You don't understand grooming. And I do take offense to that because I do understand it. I understand it deeply. And I do. I really try to educate myself on these topics. I know people think it's incredibly cringe, but I have mental health conversations on a daily basis. And I do my best to educate myself on these topics. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that just because my wife is a social worker, that means that I have an educated perspective on this from a college perspective. But we do have robust mental health conversations, and these are the topics that they include. And I just want to be clear, that doesn't make me instantly right. But I would say that, especially considering the content that I've made historically, I try to be very delicate about these situations. And I try to be very strong in my opinions, whether they are received publicly or not. And I think that that's one of the aspects to this as well, because there's a lot of content creators who are not going to disagree.
He's saying all these things while driven by elitist opinions that the content that is made by primarily, again, as I mentioned before, NB people, women, or gay men, as kind of just like stupid gossip. This kind of a narrative, it's a misogynist adjacent narrative that's been very prevalent for a long time. There is a text by, I want to say it's Maria Edgeworth, talking about, I wrote a paper on it. I'll see if I can find it. If I do remember what paper it is, I'll put it here. But it's a paper about like how women's rhetoric in their discussion place is done. This is kind of this idea that she was talking about how men typically reduce like what women talk about to like petty stuff, while in reality they actually like confide in each other about complex topics and things like that. It's kind of how the drama channels are formed as well in this community that they have. But because they're not dude bros who lack humanistic ideology and lack general concept of how emotions and connections are intertwined into the YouTube sphere and the presence of these arguments, you're not going to see that. He also condescends people while literally being wrong, saying that he recommends that nobody actually cares about Adam and they're just trying to get money off of this because nobody's recommended that he goes to therapy, despite the fact that Adam on social media had talked about that he was seeking one. But I'll give a little bit of grace to some extent to this because Adam's video about having a new therapist came out 3 days after this video. But again, Adam had been talking about it on social media, but alas. Weighs in that no one would believe it's grooming or that anything is truly bad because no one takes drama channels seriously. So what he's saying is that because the drama channels have cover dates, nobody will ever take it seriously ever again. This, again, is despite the fact that mainstream media has now began to cover it, and it has picked up beyond the YouTube sphere despite drama channels talking about it. And, people might kind of come at me for saying, maybe these things hadn't happened yet or whatever, but regardless, he's had 2 weeks to respond from beyond this point. So, and as far as what I've done, I've checked right now, it's crickets. For full transparency, this video was recorded on June 27th. Of 2023. That was the day before the ukulele apology came out. I was editing this the next day to put it out. However, that video made me drop everything in order to get that done. That being said, we are now July 2nd, and Papa Gut has watched the ukulele apology, called it career ending. Well, other than that, not too much decent retraction. Also, that being said, now Koddeerants has come out with an apology in their description that we're also going to cover, given that that's kind of intertwined with this story. But yeah. Constantly references biases again and again to a point that's extremely annoying, and blames Colleen's irresponsibility from not being a traditional celebrity. And then he says he can't trust people because they hate Miranda. He's conflated the concept that being contrarian means you're unbiased. Not following the main narrative of the mass means you're not biased. You're biased in your desire to position yourself differently. You're developed in your own bias for this person to be the one to get all the... I've described this before, right? If 1,000 people bet on the same horse and 50 people bet on another horse, even if the 1,000 people bet double or nothing, the 50 people who bet on the other horse will get way more if the other horse wins. Does that make sense? Gambling analogy. Point is, it's this I'm going to bet it all in case I'm right thing. Now, a lot of this is assumption of intention, but it's just because I can't see any other reason, because everything, it personally just seems so illogical to me that I can't figure it out. And again, people might want to pick on me for bringing up my education and this and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just trying to show that I have done this beyond just a silly little YouTube channel because I'm a woman, and he might think I'm within the drama sphere or something, so he just doesn't think I have any credibility to talk about this, so I wanted to bring that up. Based his entire situation on being unable to separate a petty fight from her fans, between her fans and inappropriate reactions. People are unable to understand that the fans are just being petty because Miranda didn't want to talk to them anymore. That's what I kind of gathered from it. It says that Adam is still obsessed with Colleen Ballinger because he wanted an apology personally and publicly. Now, I would have done a silly little meme overlay, and maybe I'll go through my old Deaf Noodles video and try to find one, but of Papa Gut's rampage of I demand that Deaf Noodles apologizes to me. Because it's just funny because why, girl, the stones of glass houses or whatever they say, so you're obsessed with Deaf Noodles. This video seems to align a petty fixation on vindicating Colleen as a means of trashing drama channels and putting it under the guise of being on a moral high ground and deciding what position he wants to take as a way of defining what grooming is, because he's some sort of weird catch a predator type on the internet, I suppose. Even though a lot of these people are usually super weird. If I remember correctly, the guy who exposed EDP was running around in Target yelling at employees for the Pride merch. I know they're not the same person, but I'm saying, like, it's like, just because you're exposing bad people once in a while doesn't mean, like, you know, the clock's right, a broken clock's right twice a day, you know what I mean? So Adam responded to this in a live stream called It's Not Grooming that I'll tag down below, where he adds details that Papa Gut got wrong, in which there were many, and I will link that down below. So let's go into part 2. So since scripting of the first video on this, mainstream media outlets were beginning to put out articles, which of these mainstream media outlets are including Rolling Stone, NBC, Huffington Post, and Time Magazine is working on one right now. For the sake of brevity, we're going to go through Rolling Stone and Huffington Post, 2 articles in which Adam McIntyre himself spoke very highly of. Now, 1, I'm out of time to film, and because I have like a job and I go to school and a bunch of yeehaw whatever, but 2, because I want to read off excerpts on screen and stuff, the rest of this video, as far as this part, is going to be done via voiceover. So you're going to see the actual articles, we'll read through them together. I'm going to highlight stuff, all that fun stuff, very tutory, if you will. And then also, I am going to kind of highlight things. You're going to see either the articles or like a sad cat image for this part of the video, because I want to kind of do a close reading type, and I don't just want to spend the whole time doing this, right? Like looking like this the whole time. So that's why I'm going to do that last part via voiceover.
So here we have the Rolling Stone article. Fans built her an internet empire. Now they're tearing it down. 4 former fans of Colleen Ballinger tell Rolling Stone the same access that made the comedian famous opened the door for interactions described as toxic, exploitive, and hurtful. So the basis of this article here is it is very much a comprehensive timeline style, very similar to many of the videos being made. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to read over the parts that are actually different than what I talked about in my previous video, which will be linked in the description. It begins with, when Adam McIntyre was 10 years old, he found something he thought was utterly, breathtakingly, overwhelmingly special: YouTube. Sure, the Irish preteen had the same classes and the same background as most of his peers in Brighton, England, but while his classmates followed more mainstream celebrities, pop sensations, and blockbuster action stars, McIntyre was focused on the news site and his budding brand of superstars. YouTubers back then was not like it is now, McIntyre tells Rolling Stone. It is a very weird concept. It felt so much more different than anyone who was in my class at school. To distract himself from bullying and other difficulties of early adolescence, he began combing through videos on YouTube and found a favorite in comedian Colleen Ballinger. But what started as a gradual offhand interest quickly brought McIntyre into a close friendship with Ballinger that now, at 20, he alleges was exploitative, abusive, and toxic. Ballinger denied these claims in 2020, but has not responded to additional complaints or Rolling Stone's recent multiple requests for comment. Now this is not necessarily up to date, given the ukulele incident, but Rolling Stone does have an article on that as well. And as more of the first 2 children of the internet come of age and reevaluate their online relationships with their favorite YouTube stars, other realizations is sweeping and shattering internet fandoms. The intimate way early YouTube stars cultivated relationships with their followers made them famous. It also opened the door for widespread abuse. So this is just an introduction building that sort of concept of these relationships. So here it is talking about all of the characters, for lack of a better term, that are in this scene. So people that were involved: Corey DeSoto. This is Colleen's ex-husband, who had allegedly been helping Colleen for a while. Trent had inappropriate conversations with someone who now goes by Oliver. So yeah, Trent was doing the inappropriate conversations, that were like sexual and borderline predatory, if not allegedly full out predatory. Ballinger was asking about sex lives and stuff, and Corey DeSoto bullied someone for their weight. McIntyre says YouTube star created a reputation for personally responding and interacting with fans, a power he claims she took advantage of for content. So again, there are 4 other people that mention this, which would be like Becky, Johnny, Oliver, etc. So then they're just building a sort of foundation by describing other YouTubers who've had scandals like this: James Charles, Onision, etc. Then they have a quote-unquote social media specialist who just kind of teaches us about this concept. And then this is just how famous Colleen was at the peak of her fame. So then Adam discusses here his relationship with Colleen, saying, I was looking at it like this golden opportunity of trust, McIntyre says. And I, in the moment, really didn't care if it was morally right or wrong, because I was just grateful that she was talking to me and not anyone else. It made me feel like I know something that other people don't know. They know Miranda sings, but I know Colleen. So then they're talking about the group chat Colleenies Weenies, where a lot of these messages were coming in with the "Are you a virgin?" and "What's your faith position?" messages, etc. And this is like where things begin to spiral, right? And this concept of knowing who they really are, because this is something that's like very prominent in YouTuber relationships, is there's this sort of concept of this authenticity in the YouTube character or the person making the videos, because people can post them on their own whenever they want without the need of like managers and all that kind of stuff. However, more often than not, and I would say essentially always, a sort of persona that is built up on YouTube, despite the fact that there's a supposed realistic nature that people assume is there. And this does cause a lot of harm in interactions, because people fall victim to thinking that their circumstances truly relate to those of the YouTuber, despite the fact that this is often not the case. This is going over the Meghan Trainor tweets in 2020. This is going over Adam McIntyre's initial video. So this is talking about Koddeerants' video coming out that now brought forward the allegations and things like that. And Koddeerants did not respond for comment, but we'll get into Cody's comments more so upon the apology reading, which I will do after reading the Huffington Post article. So then they're bringing in other fans besides Adam McIntyre. So now there's Alex, a 23-year-old fan from Ireland also, who ran a Colleen Ballinger fan page with over 22,000 followers that stopped posting as frequently after being mocked by Corey DeSoto about their weight during a meet and greet. I tried to brush it off, but I was close to tears after that encounter, Alex tells Rolling Stone. It was confirmation that my idol thought I was fat, which again, that makes sense. Becky, who asked to only be identified by her first name, joined Ballinger's Twitter fan around 2017 when the YouTube star was well on her way to mainstream success, but she tells Rolling Stone that the parasocial relationship Ballinger cultivated within her community created toxic responses from other fans, who she says would attack anyone who they felt could possibly be, or was, I suppose, disparaging Ballinger. Then we're talking about the yoga challenge picture with the image that was circulating that was really prominent online. Becky says, I was mortified in that position. I was in shock, but I had so many friends through the fandom that I didn't want to necessarily lose. Becky says, so for a little bit, I was pretending to be like, yeah, that was really funny. And I was worried that I would be called ungrateful because I got to go up on stage. I trusted her so much and looked up to her for so long. I didn't think she would ever do something like that. So now we have Oliver, who I discussed earlier with the message with Trent, joined the fandom in 2018. Following Ballinger and her family on the site, got a follow back from Ballinger's brother Trent, which turned to constant communication. Messages reviewed by Rolling Stone show over a year of communication with Trent, complimenting Oliver's looks, asking for photos, and telling him to text anytime. Anything we talk about stays between you and I, read one message. You would look good preg if you ever wanted children one day, read another. At the time, Oliver was 13 and Trent was 33. So this is just straight up, essentially like fetish messages. This is what people mean when they're like well, maybe not necessarily hypothetically, Colleen, if we're going to concede to Papa Gut in any way, is predatory in her own right or grooming in her own right. She still led to the fame and bringing forward of Trent and did not do anything to rectify any of this. And like, you would look good pregnant. Like, are you serious? Like, that's fully sexual in nature. I was confused, but I brushed it off, Oliver tells Rolling Stone. I was too scared to tell my mom because I didn't want her to take away my phone and not trust me. And even when I started to become uncomfortable, I kept thinking to myself, this is Colleen's brother. So many people in the fandom would probably love to have messages from him. Trust, or lack thereof, is something the former fan Johnny Silvestri, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, thinks of when he recalls his time in the Colleen Ballinger fandom. So this is talking about Johnny, who had worked with Colleen on shows and stuff. I discussed this in my video as well. So they would use a public chat room called Tiny Chat to talk with their fans, where the fans would also be on camera, talking about emotions, feelings, and experiences. That is so wild. The family vibe also meant the lines were blurred. Silvestri says when he was 16, he traveled to Chicago to attend a Miranda Sings show in New York. There, he was brought on stage and given a signed paper crown from Ballinger, as well as personal phone number of Evans, Ballinger's then husband. Silvestri hadn't come out as queer, was being bullied at school, and was months from dropping out entirely. He considered Ballinger, and by extension her family and team, as his escape, his confidants. So when he was offered a position as an assistant on Ballinger's tour, he accepted in the hopes that it would lead to a future in the entertainment industry. Instead, he described the work environment that thrived on parasocial and intensely one-sided relationships between Ballinger and her fans. He also claims that the same dynamic was used to prevent him from speaking out about hurtful behavior. More specifically, Silvestri claims DeSoto, Ballinger's best friend, screamed at him and verbally belittled him, behavior he claims Ballinger personally witnessed and did nothing about. He also adds that Evans nurtured a friendship with him, only to use him for free labor for his social media accounts and emotional guidance, creating an even more unbalanced dynamic. So that's the issue, and that's why these things like what Papa Gut was saying was so reductionist of this whole ordeal, because it was the entire group of them and the entire environment that had come from all of this. So Adam says that he doesn't feel good about all of this, and that he's very upset that it took 3 years for people to believe him, so it's gone back to Adam now. Then it's just talking about Colleen Ballinger's silence, which we now are aware that has ended as of June 28th, or 27th, excuse me, and how Adam is now trying to interact with his fan base without exploitation. I want to prove how easy it is to not abuse trust. Adam says, as a content creator, you can't control the baseline parasocial relationship that happens. However, you can feed into it and abuse it. That's when it becomes a problem. And that's what I believe Colleen does. So that's essentially how the article ends. So now, let's go to the Huffington Post article. So here is the sort of, for lack of a better term, explosive interview article that Adam really appreciated and talked about on video from the Huffington Post, and it reads as such: she's a children's YouTube star. Her fans say she groomed them as teens. Colleen Ballinger, known for her character Miranda Sings, has been accused of having a relationship with her fans they are now calling inappropriate. So what we're going to do is... Oh, it was released on my birthday! Okay, sorry. What we're going to do now is, we're just going to read the parts that aren't repetitive of what's already been discussed. So this one creates a sort of foundation that is disproving Colleen's claims that later come out in her like ukulele apology thing, that in reality she has a very child-centered audience. Ballinger, 36, holy, has marketed herself toward children for nearly 15 years by taking part in YouTube challenges, collaborating with other popular YouTubers like JoJo Siwa, and having kids participate in her stage show. She essentially created a Pee-wee's Playhouse for a generation that grew up online, but the nature of YouTube with social media allows her to build deeper interpersonal relationships with her fans in real time. So this is what I was describing earlier in the video, where I was like, or I think it was in my first Colleen Ballinger video actually, that I genuinely thought like Colleen Ballinger's content was like for small children. Like I thought that was like the whole thing. So this says that on camera, she was an LGBTQ ally, professes inclusivity, body positivity, and advocates for the sick. But off camera, her interactions with her fans veered into what they describe as inappropriate territory. So here is where they're talking about the allegations that people were saying that they had been groomed. So again, this is just establishing the basis of interacting with Colleen at 13, the live streams, and then the video with the bra and underwear, and these sorts of conversations. So here Adam is talking about when the divorce happened and specific details on Colleen confiding in people about the divorce, like confiding in children, which is like super weird. The chat wasn't just a place for Ballinger to interact with her fan base, McIntyre claims. She got personal with them. He said that in 2016, she confided in them about her relationship problems with her then partner, Joshua Evans, who was also a prominent YouTuber at the time. The Weenie said she told him that Evans was an emotionally abusive person, a shocking allegation for the group of young fans, and Evans denies this in the recent interview. Everyone in the group chat went silent for a second, McIntyre says, and then we're like, oh my god, B, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or I'm so sorry. Whatever. Like, before that, we were having a conversation about homework because we were children. Which, again, this is just proposing or bringing forward that kind of dichotomy that existed between someone who's 30 or in their 30s and a bunch of preteens. So, this is saying that Ballinger said people should be respectful to Evans in the video where they mentioned they're splitting. McIntyre says that the rest of the weenies were never told to stand down. Instead, they were mobilized as Ballinger's de facto public relations unit, going on gossip websites and comment sections to defend her reputation and attack Evans amid the divorce. It was a weekly, if not daily, occurrence where she would come into the group chat seeking validation, telling us that Josh was abusive, that Josh screamed at her, that she gave Josh everything, that Josh is running hate campaigns on her, McIntyre said. The connotation was for us to go and attack Josh, or for us to tell the public the truth because she was telling us that he was abusing her. So then we had to go defend her publicly, but she never said anything publicly. I was so involved in this woman's life that it's embarrassing to look back on. There were some days on a school night that I would be up until like 4 a.m. trying to calm her down. This would be within the Winnie's chat, I suppose. Or personally as well. This is someone named Bray saying again that they would have to go defend go defend Colleen in the chats and stuff like that, and in comment sections. I would be in class DMing her on my iPad about her abusive ex-husband, he said. I was so involved in this woman's life that it's embarrassing to look back on. And then here's the quote from earlier. There were some days I'd be up until 4 a.m. So here's Josh Evans' interview where he's saying that how the fan interactions affected him. It was very eye-opening to see this was the route she was going to take, Evans said. She was going to use them to be the voice for her so she doesn't say it, so it doesn't come back to something she said online publicly. This is similarly to for Colleen going into people's DMs when Adam made his original video in 2020, such as Koddeerants or Cody's DMs to make the video, right? So this is the same tactic. So this kind of pieces together a more cohesive timeline for us and kind of makes it clear. Like, it kind of makes other things seem more truthful based on, like, the consistency in the pattern of events. She would equate me having issues with some of her behavior to I'm emotionally abusing her, Evans said. And I was like, how do you jump from one to the other? People have arguments, people have disagreements, but to say I'm emotionally abusive, you can't take those words back, especially when you let that out into an online space. And it just snowballed and got bigger and bigger and bigger. McIntyre has since publicly apologized to Evans in a YouTube video for his role in the smear campaign. I spent years just coming at this man, attacking this man. He did not deserve anything that came his way, McIntyre says in the video. So now we're coming back to Johnny. So this is talking about how he had the fan account and everything, and he was in the Weenies chat. So Adam and or Johnny, because this is a bit clearly, not super clearly written, said that many fans, many of whom were minors, would video chat with Ballinger as often as 5 times a week for several hours at a time. These conversations were often about Evans. She was dumping on us, Silvestri said. She was like, I'm so sad, I don't think Josh is going to propose to me. And she would do things like that, and she was turning fans against him. Silvestri claims that as the relationship evolved, Ballinger's messages got more personal. In a 2018 text message reviewed by Huffington Post that appears to come from Ballinger, the YouTuber shared an Instagram post from another fan and made fun of her for changing her gender pronouns. Ballinger also made fun of the fan's makeup, suggesting she was making up illnesses to get her attention. Silvestri, who was then 22 and working on Ballinger's bus tour, for $125 per show, joined in on the trolling, which he now regrets. I just really hope people understand how highly impressionable I still was, and how I still felt like my job was being held over my head all the time, he said. If I didn't join in on the jokes and the things they thought were funny, which were unfortunately really cool things most of the time, they wouldn't have liked me and I would have lost my job. So this again is like, this is why with Papa Get earlier too, I was like, dude, don't hire your fans. Like, was so wild to me how he was like, I think that's a great idea. I'm like, girl, holy moly. This is just talking about how Johnny's father met with Colleen and her then husband, and they seemed pretty responsible. This again is talking about Becky with the yoga bit. Silvestri was working on Ballinger's tour the night of Becky participated in the yoga challenge. He said it was an uncomfortable night because Ballinger was not remorseful. She knew what she was doing and she had no regard for Becky or her emotions. And that is just consistent with her behavioral pattern, Silvestri said. So again, Ballinger did not respond to multiple comments, nor did any of her team. She hasn't posted anything. after the allegations. Evans, on the other hand, speaking for the first time about the allegations and his experiences navigating social media celebrities alongside Ballinger. There were no rule books for YouTubers, Evans said. You'll have full access. That's what made YouTubers different from celebrities. You could talk to them and they would talk back. We took pride in that, he continued. But in retrospect, it's dangerous. And it can be perceived inappropriately because a lot of it was inappropriate. It just evolved from being something simple into something very much that you should not be engaging in. And those teens and children, they don't know that it's not right. They don't know what they should be pulling back as well. That's the adult's job. And the sad truth is, no one was doing that. No one was pulling back. No one was thinking, how is this affecting them? How attached are they getting? Ballinger faced scrutiny over a relationship 2020. This again is the Colleen Ballinger Stop Lying video. We've gone over that ad nauseum. And this is just saying that the video did not take effect until really this year after the new allegations started coming out. And so now we're going to end off with Koddeerants coming back. So Koddeerants has now put the banner back up, put this back up. Still no about with the channel, no features, just one single community tab post and the video. So the video, the apology, quote unquote, is in the description of the video. Oh my god. Ugh. I'm in incognito. I've had YouTube Premium for so long that, like, I have forgotten. This video explains why I left the Colleen Ballinger fandom. In it, I will explain many things I did in my past that are horrible. For example, I was involved in group chats with minors. I wrote a fan fiction about Colleen that was graphic, plus I shared DMs I had with Corey DeSoto and Colleen Ballinger during the Adam McIntyre situation that happened in 2020. There are not enough words to describe how terribly sorry I am for these things I did. I know that Adam has publicly stated recently he does not forgive me for what I've done, and that is fine. I do not deserve forgiveness, especially since I should have shared my messages with Colleen and Corey years ago with him. I deeply regret not doing that. There's nothing I can do to undo that now. Unfortunately, I'm glad that I was able to validate Adam's allegations against Colleen and that other people have been able to come forward with their bad experiences with her. I private this video a while due to the backlash I was getting from how poorly I acted in it. I even made a live stream reacting poorly to the backlash. So sorry to anyone who witnessed that mess. I deeply regret not logging off when you all begged me to. I only wish I had listened sooner and that I never did in the first place. That's why I'm dedicated to deplatform myself while I try to get better. To start, I should have never talked about the money I would make from this video. The main priority should have been the truth, especially with what happened to Adam, because this never should have been about me. Like Adam said, nobody gives a F about me. This is about everyone else who are victims of Colleen. I was never a victim. I acted like I was, but no, I was a villain. For that, I'm deeply sorry. I should have never made this about myself. Later on, I quickly talk about the fanfiction I wrote about Colleen Ballinger and Eric Stockland. To be honest, I never should have quickly talked about this because this was a horrendous thing I did and you all deserved a better apology. I want to make it known that I deeply regret doing that. I should have never wrote a story about a real life person or been in group chats with minors. I was an adult when I did that and I should have known better. I want to clarify that there were no minor characters in this story. All characters were adults and I did use names of fandom members, adults and minors, in the story who were in the Colleen Ballinger group chat that I was in. I never should have used their names or wrote the story in general. I apologize to any person's name I used and Colleen and Eric for doing that. Lastly, I want to deeply apologize to Adam for not giving these DMs to you in 2020 when all of this was happening to you. I was scared, but I should have been stronger for you. I never should have let my parasocial relationship with Colleen get in the way to what was happening to you. I was starstruck. Like many others have pointed out, I let it get to my head. Corey and Colleen were sending me things on you and were trying to paint you as this bad guy when they were the bad guys all along. I only wish I'd realized it sooner. I hate that I participated in what happened to you by not helping clear your name sooner. I am a coward. Even though I know you despise me for my actions, I am glad that I've at least helped you give validation you deserve. See, no. I don't appreciate the like patting on the back part, but whatever. I'll forever be sorry for what I did to you. Thank you to everyone who has held me accountable for my horrific behavior in the past and continues to also do it in the present. I am listening to your criticism and will try to work hard on myself in the future offline. This again is just, this whole thing is just a bunch of commentary channel talking points. And this kind of like makes me frustrated into like how commentary YouTube has like warped the brains of like people actually being able to respond to things, not in this like borderline high school essay format. I've decided to take this video public again because it never should have been taken down to begin with. To those who have felt brave enough to share their own stories, I am proud of you. Take care. And then here's the chapters, and that's it. So, okay, back to video me.
In conclusion, Papa Gut Silly Billy made terrible videos. Yeah, okay, that happens, I guess. I don't know. Rip Bozo, maybe? Adam McIntyre still slaying. Colleen still silent. Articles still coming. So that's my current update on the Colleen Ballinger situation. Links, sources, ways to support the channel, including a long form email to suggest content, all linked down below. I'm thinking my next video is going to be on that Shein factory disaster, so that's going to be interesting. And yeah, I hope y'all have a good day wherever you are, and I'll see ya when I see ya. Bye!
Hey, it's been a while since you saw my face. I haven't been doing so great, so I took a little break. So a lot of people are saying some things about me that aren't quite true. It doesn't matter if it's true though, just as long as it's entertaining to you. Right? You guys having fun? All aboard!